Live from the Bronx, episode 21. We are the podcast that celebrates Bronx creatives and change makers, and I'm your boy KB.
What's going on, beautiful people? It's your boy Jay. Before we get started, I would like to encourage you all to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with everything we have going on Live from the Bronx. So today we have a very, very special guest. This brother is a friend of mine. I've had the pleasure of knowing him for maybe about going on 2 years now. This guy is really dope. You may know him for his amazing style. You may have seen him on ABC, BET, Fox News, NBC News, and the list goes on. He is an entrepreneur, a men's style expert, a custom clothier, and a professional photographer. You may know him as the Welthe Guy or the Professor of Style. But please join me in welcoming Robert Pauley III.
Hey.
Robert, what is going on? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. What's going on with y'all? How y'all doing today?
Can't complain, brother. Can't complain. Happy and healthy. That's how I'll answer that one.
Good.
Same here, man. You know, I'm doing all right. I have great energy. I'm excited. Just kind of going with it.
Right. Yeah. Nah, I said that as I was getting ready for the podcast. I'm like, listen, let me have my tea because I need to bring that energy because I know you finna be turned up.
You already know. And I got the coffee on deck, so it's gonna be fun.
Facts. Jay is always turned up. It seems you're turned up. I need to match y'all fly, so I'm gonna make sure I raise my energy up to where it needs to be. So for the listeners, who is the Welthe Guy? How do you identify for folks who might not be familiar with you?
Right. So since we on Live from the Bronx, you already know. Representing BX all day, every day. So Welthe Guy, Bronx native, all right, born and raised in the Bronx, in the Soundview section of the
Soundview, stand up.
Okay. Yeah, man. So grew up there in the Bronx. My family has a long history of being in the Bronx. They moved there in the 60s. All right, so by the time I came, they had been there for a good amount of time. Went to elementary, middle school, and high school in the Bronx, and from there, pretty much spread my wings. And now I live in Harlem. But before becoming the Welthe Guy, all right, I worked in finance for about 10 years. And 3 of those 10 years, I lived in Hong Kong. So I'm actually really familiar with Asia. I've lived in Asia twice. I've lived in Spain, where I was supposed to be learning Spanish, but I was partying mostly. As well as I've lived in Brazil. So definitely have kind of like been around the world, but have never left there's definitely parts of the Bronx in me that will never go away, regardless of where I'm at.
I love that. There, just from hearing a little bit about your experience, I feel like all these other questions came to mind that we hadn't even planned for. But we'll dive deeper into that in a second. So you just mentioned you grew up in Soundview, you grew up in the Bronx. Can we stay there for a little bit? Can you tell us a little bit more about what your upbringing was like in the Bronx, maybe where you went to school, and just share your experience?
Yeah, man. So, I grew up during a time in the Bronx that was really, really like riddled with like drugs and violence. And I was talking to Kevin, and I was saying I didn't really, like my school upbringing, I didn't really see that, or I really wasn't that affected by it. But like within my own home, in my own community, I definitely was affected by it. I've talked with you about this before in terms of, me growing up with my grandmother, in foster care, and just that whole experience. Fortunately for me, you know, I was in foster care, but I was with my family, you know, like my mom's mom, and then I also had support there from my dad's family, and even still got to see them. Whereas a lot of people, you know, like they end up being with a stranger and they don't see their family and stuff like that. So I was very fortunate to still grow up with my family, but always kind of, you know, especially as a kid, like, damn, like, why me? You know what I'm saying? Like, why couldn't things just be regular, you know, like for me? But growing up in the Bronx, I always saw myself outside of the Bronx, if that makes sense, right? Like going further than what my surroundings were. And I always did things that worked toward that. So, you know, as a teenager, from 14, I always had some type of job, right? It's either I had some type of job or I was doing some type of volunteer work. I always had like a giving back aspect to my life. And yeah, when I was in high school, I actually had a after school job in New Jersey, at the Stevens Institute of Technology. So I would go to school during the day, after school, get on a train, go down to the Port Authority, get on the bus, right, take the bus into Jersey, go and work this job doing photocopies, right, and then come back to the Bronx. And now, as I say it, and when I think about it, I'm like, that was kind of that was a lot going on. My downstairs neighbor, she worked there with me too, and she was a little older than me, and she got a car. So, you know, like half the time, you know, she drove, but when she wasn't working, when I was working, I had to get on that good iron horse and troop all the way to Jersey. But yeah, always involved. I went to Stevenson High School in the Bronx, always involved in something in you know, in school, like class representative. I was in the Academy of Finance, where I took like a college course at Baruch, as well as, you know, had access to internships. So the first time, you know, that I had to wear a suit every day was like my internship at City, you know, and that's when I like realized, like, wait a minute, I get a lot of love and respect with this suit on, you know, and that's and from there, like, since I was a kid, I always loved dressing up, and I always loved, you know, like looking good. But it wasn't until that particular experience that I was like, wow, I really love the way that I look in the suit. I really love the way people treat me in a suit, and I love the way wearing a suit makes me feel about myself. And that was kind of like the start of it. It was a much more baggy suit at that time. You know, like a much more baggy suit at that time, but nonetheless, it was still a suit. Like I seen some pictures from then, and I was like, damn, look at this baggy suit. Like, but that was the, you know, that's how people dress like during that time. So yeah, like growing up in the Bronx and being a part of the community center, right? Like with the Soundview Community Center, the Sackwern Community Center, I say that those things were a pivotal, like, thing in my life that kind of led me on the straight and narrow, right? Like after school, being there, right? Not being on the street, doing things where I was challenging myself. Like, I don't do it anymore, but fun fact, and a lot of people don't know this, but I used to really be into like hip-hop dancing. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never known this.
Yes, right. A lot of people don't know it, but yeah, I used to be like in dance groups and all that, winning like competitions, and I've always had like a competitive. I even won like a dance contest at the Apollo. Yeah, when I was like 16. When I was like 16, it was actually Dougie Fresh was there. And he was like, he was hosting, and they was asking for like people to come up like to battle. And I went up there, yeah, and I won the battle.
I gotta hit you with your own line right now.
Right.
Stop playing.
Stop playing. Right. But that was like an outlet for me, like that, the dancing. I ran track, right? Like I always was like into something growing up. And I think that is really one of the things in my life that led me to, see that there was a world outside the Bronx, and want to actually see it. Not just know that there's a world outside the Bronx, but like saying like I have to see it.
Yo, you gave us like a million different directions we could go in right now. But before we even go into any of them, I'm gonna just say it's probably impossible to play two truths and a lie with you, because this man has lived in Beijing. He was a hip hop dancer. He was a
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now people, even when sometimes people will show me like that old footage, I'm like, wow, look at me, like up, like up there. And even when before I went to Baruch, like the first school that I went to was Niagara University. And even there, like I met people from New York, and we danced, and we would go to like Buff State and like different schools like up there for like their like Apollo night and all of that stuff, and go and like kill it, like being in college and winning like $500, was like
a ton of money. Yeah.
Like we really, right, yeah, like we really lit. And I remember probably the last time we did it, we was hyped because you be in college, you be broke, like you, and especially if you don't come from a family that really supports you like that financially, you got to really make your own way. And that was like one of our hustles, like putting together these dances and going to these schools and like winning the contests and like and getting that money. And I remember like the last one we didn't win. And the girl that was like in the group, I was devastated too, because I'm like, damn, I really needed that money, But like after that, we kind of like chilled on it for a minute.
That's actually a really good segue when you use the word hustle. So everything you've been talking about from the time you was a kid sounds like obviously a ton of hustle. So
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about two things that you said? One, your work ethic, right? Your work ethic, it sounds like it was always super strong. Yep. Can you talk about where that came from? And also this desire to give back? Because sometimes folks who don't have a lot don't necessarily think that they have anything to give. So where did you, so I know you said you grew up in foster care and stuff like that. How did you say, you know what, maybe I don't have a ton right now, but I still want to give back to people?
Right.
The work ethic and the giving back, I'm curious about.
Oh yeah. I mean, since I was a kid, people always told me you're gonna go places. And two, I always believed it in myself, right? Like I always see my life much bigger than what it was. And, my dad, a couple years ago passed away, but my dad, from, I would say, from a little kid up until the point where he like passed away, my dad, he never really worked. I think that I've given my dad more money in his life than he's like given me, but that's, like type thing. But yeah, like I didn't have much. And one thing that I knew from young was the only person that can really make something happen for me is me. So just from being disappointed from different things, wanting different things and not being able to get it, I kind of learned. And And also too, when it came to fashion, it was just like, okay, I like these Huaraches, right? They cost whatever, $80. Like, how am I gonna get these sneakers? You know, or how am I going to get, you know, these jeans or whatever it was? And I've always been good at finding a way to get what I want for the price that I want. And same thing will work, you know, like I was like, okay, I want to work in financial services. And, you know, I was studying history and people's like, what? Like, you know, you should be a teacher or something. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm like, nah, trust me. I see where I'm going. I see where I'm going. Like, one thing, I'm a researcher. So I knew that there were people in JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and all these firms that had art history degrees and English degrees and all of these degrees that you don't associate with business, right? And I knew, I was just like, I know that one, and what is my unique proposition that's going to get me in there, right? Because throughout all the interviews, people like, why are you here? Why are you here? Like, you know, you studying history, like, what can you bring here? And it's like, listen, I can bring a lot here, right? Like, having a history degree taught me so many things. It taught me how to communicate. It taught me how to tell stories, right? It taught me how to write. It's all skills that you're going to need in any job, right? It taught me how to think critically. It taught me how to analyze. It taught me how to look at numbers to tell a story. And that is right there. That you know, that's most important. But all throughout my life, it's like, when people were like, what are you doing? You can't, I always go against the grain with things. What are you doing? You can't do that. Like, people always think there's only one path to something, but I've always been like, nah, there's other ways to get there. So it's like, I say, okay, I want to go to China or whatever it is. What? Why would you go there? Leave your family, your friends, everybody's here. It's like, nah, trust me. I see where I'm going. I'll be okay. So from a work ethic perspective, I've always been like, I'm not waiting for anybody else to make something happen for me. All right. Like, I'm going to do as much as I can to make it happen for myself. And what was the second part?
About the desire to give back.
Right. Yeah. So that is something that's just always been with me. I've always been an educator. I've always been that person that shares information with people and wanting to bring people up, right? So while I was in Baruch, I was a part of National Association of Black Accountants, and I was actually the president of the chapter, which was crazy because I was a history major, right? So automatically, people's like, "What do you do?" You know, like, "What are you doing here?" But it actually led me where I wanted to go, right? But their motto is "Lifting as we climb." You know, so I think for me, growing up in the environment that I grew up in, and seeing other people who also grew up in that environment who may not have had anybody to say, listen, this doesn't have to be your final destination, right? These are things that you can do if you want to change, like, your station in life. And yeah, and it's just always been something that I've cared about, something that I've always done. Like, I believe that you can't truly be successful unless you give to others, right? And it doesn't have to be money. Money helps, right? Money helps. But if I can teach people something based off of my failings, right? My successes as well as my failings, that is going to help them to, like, avoid those same, you know, like those same failings. I'm like, I'm for it. Information is free, you know, for the most part, Yeah, man. So that's something, you know, while I worked in finance, I taught a class at the high school economics and finance for almost 5 years on my lunch break, on turning a hobby into a business. And it's even before I became an entrepreneur. Like, I was working at a bank, and the way I had got it was I wanted to be, it's called WISE. So working something in education. I should have remembered it by now, but WISE Institute. But what they did was they brung professionals that look like the students, right, in there to teach them different skills, karate, ballroom dancing, whatever it was. And at the time, I didn't get an assignment, and I was like, well, if y'all have anything, just let me know. And one day they called me up like, hey, like, we have something for you at a school close by to where you work. And I'm like, okay, cool. What is it? They like turning the hobby into a business. I'm like, but I don't have a business, you know? Like, I just work at this bank. And they like, don't worry about that. You know, the previous teacher will give you the curriculum, and you just tailor it to, you know, how you want to teach it. And I was like, all right, bet. And I loved it. I would say at least like 20% of the students started their own business, whether it was customizing sneakers. This one kid had a eco-friendly like skateboard. Like, he built like this eco-friendly like skateboard. So it was really cool to see what those kids came up with. And it also kept me very in tune with the teens at that, you know, like, what was going on in their world and what was the new things in all of that. Of course, you know, as you guys know, everybody wasn't into it, and everybody ain't started a business. They was kind of like there. But the way that I always look at it is, if you have 30 people and you can affect one or two, that's great. Yeah, you're not going to be able to reach everybody, but if you reach at least one person and you create, you know, that change in that one person, you've like done your job.
There is so much in what you just shared. There are two things that I want to say. One is, first, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing parts of who you are and your story with us, with our audience. And you and I spoke about this too, right? So as I'm listening to you talk about your upbringing, growing up in foster care, very, very similar story, right? I haven't shared this on the platform yet, but that's my story, right? Grew up in foster care, and see some of the same things that you're taking out of like your upbringing and hearing about like your vision for where you see yourself. And you may have not figured out all the pieces, but you're like, no, this is the next step. I need to go here.
Right.
And thinking about my own journey. And that's kind of been my story as a social worker in the work that I do in education, right? It's like when you do social work, you got to do clinical work. You got to be in a school. I'm like, no, I want to impact education from a macro level. I don't know what this looks like, but I know that's what I want to do. So let's figure it out. So I want to just, just talk a little bit about like the importance of that, and just share my appreciation for your storytelling and hearing your journey. And I think that's part of the reason we connected. And for me, just kind of looking up to what you're doing, right? And saying, I'm going to create this because this is what I want to do. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks at the moment. Right. I got a plan. Let me do my thing and just watch me work. So I love that about you. I also know Kevin's light bulbs are probably going off too, as you started to talk about all the different things you got involved with. So I'm going to turn it over to Kevin, but I just wanted to say, you know, thank you again for those two pieces there.
Yep.
So yeah, I did, like Jay said, there's a million different. One, you're dope. You're super dope. So thank you for being here with us. So obviously you fashion, right? You do fashion.
Yep.
So I guess I want to know a little bit about when you first, I know you said you were into it from like a kid, but when did it become like, yo, this is something that I can like do. This is something I can like turn into a career,
right?
And be good at and make money from, and all of those wonderful things that you've been able to do.
Oh yeah. So, you know, I thought that my path was going to be, you know, I was always into movies where a man was going to the office with his suit on, with his briefcase. I'd be like, oh, that's going to be me. You know, I'm going to be somebody that people like, where's he going? So I chose, you know, a finance route because I'm like, okay, I get to wear my suits. You know, I get to make money. I get to make money. But in that space, people will always say, they either always knew me as the guy with the nice suits, or, you know, if they didn't know my name, but people will always stop me, like, or if I was introduced to them, like, yeah, I know you, I see you in the building, you the guy with the nice suits. But the other thing people would say is, what are you doing here? Right? People see things in us that we don't see in ourselves at the time, right? So it's just like, you're great, you have this particular skill set, right? Like, when you step in a room, like, your presence in terms of the way that you look and carry yourself ain't really that, you know, like, it don't really like fit with this and what we doing. And what I would, at the time, I didn't have an entrepreneurial mindset, right? I thought that I'm work at these companies and continue to rise, and that'll kind of like be my career. And so I would think, well, I don't know if I worked in fashion, what would I do? Because my mindset was, what company would I work at? What type of job would I do at that company? Right? So I was just like, I don't know what I would do in fashion. Yes, I like to wear a suit, but that don't necessarily translate into working in fashion. But it wasn't until I came up with, you know, the idea of the coat that I wanted, that the shift started to happen in terms of, well, wait a minute, I see a need in the market for a product, and I know that I'm not the only person that wants this product. All right, so I spent about 2 years just looking for a coat for myself, right, just to wear to work, looking all over, right? So it was either something at a luxury retailer for $5,000 or something from Zara, right, for $250, but nothing was quite right. And I was on Fifth Avenue one day, and you know, here in New York, how they have like the fur liquidation sales, right? Like at the end of the winter or whatever, the guy on the corner handing out the flyers, like, go in here. So I was like, let me go in here and see if they have the coat that I want. And the salesperson was like, no, we don't have that, but do you have like your own coat? I'm like, yeah, of course. Well, here's some information. You can go here to get like a fur put on your coat. And at first I was like, nah, why am I gonna do that? I have the money, right? Like, I just wanna buy it. Like, I just wanna find it. But when I got home, I looked at the card that he gave me, and I was like, you know what? Let me just try. Let me just see. So I went down there, and I went to the place that they told me to go to, and I went in, and there was a black man kind of at the front. I'm gonna say he was like security, right? Big black guy. And I went in, I told him what I want, and he was like, brother, let me talk to you for a minute. So I like kind of moved in close. He's like, listen, what you want, they charge you too much for it in here. Go around the corner to the Chinese. They give you a good price for what you're looking for. And I'm like, thank you. So went around the corner, went to the Chinese, told them what I wanted. They did it for me. I'm like, okay, this is nice. This is looking good. Then I got another coat. Then I started wearing them. Then on the subway, on the street, people started tapping me. Hey, yo, you look good, da-da-da. Where'd you, that's my Bronx coming out. You look good, da-da-da.
It never goes away.
Right. So, people started asking about it, right? Where'd you get it? No, actually, I put this together myself. And then a friend of mine was like, you gotta make me one. Right. And it's crazy because he lived in Atlanta. You know, it really don't get cold there. But he was my first customer. And when I first started doing it, it was, I would buy the coat, right? And then go and have the fur put on it. So, and then eventually it turned into a custom thing. But yeah, people were eating it up. And I was like, wait a minute, I have something here. And at the time, like my job, I wasn't feeling it. I felt that I wasn't being used to my fullest potential, right? I came from a role where I was leading like global projects, right? Traveling pretty much for 3 years around the US and internationally. And my skill set wasn't being utilized. And they kind of took the standpoint of, well, this is what the job is. And we expect you to be in your seat at 8:30 until, and I'm like, what? Like, what? Where are we? How old am I? Like, what, what's going on here? So I clashed a lot with the team, and I just felt anxious going in there. And one morning I woke up and I was just like, you know what? Today's the day that I'm not going back, and I'm like going to take a chance on myself, right? Like, it's great when, you're able to say to somebody, well, I work in the investment bank at JP Morgan, or I work at Goldman Sachs, and people are really, really impressed. But what I thought about was, no one's ever going to know I was there. I'm not the CEO of it, right? No one's ever going to know my name. No one's ever going to know the reports that I did and the presentations and all of that stuff. I'm just another one of 160,000 people that if I leave today, they'll replace in 2 weeks, right? So I was like, I don't want that to be my legacy. I don't want, on my obituary, oh, he worked for all of these prestigious financial services firms. No, I want my legacy to be my name, something that I built. And that day I quit. I opened up my laptop, and even this was an act of defiance, right? Because corporate environment, gotta give you 2 weeks notice, gotta get them. Nah, I opened up my laptop, was like, hey, this is the paraphrase version of it. Hey, I'm not coming back. I'll send my Amex and my ID in my phone, but I'm out. And from that day on, yeah, it was just, I felt liberated. I felt like this is my time to, like I said, like leave my legacy. And that's what I've been working for, right? Like, you're not gonna know Robert Pauley, who was like CFO of Latin American sales for investor services. No, nobody's gonna care about that. But people are gonna remember the Welthe Guy just has such a different impact on people than any of that ever will,
So I have a ton of questions. My fault, Jay. You was about to say something.
Now you got go jump right in. I'll follow up after.
And I feel like because you notice, man, you probably have had some of the conversations that I'm having right now. So I'm really fascinated.
Here's what's funny about this. Some, yes, but some of it is new for me too.
Right.
So it's a great opportunity for learning for both of us. But I'm gonna be quiet, Kev, because I know you got your piece. I'll jump in.
Yeah, I'm taking, it's funny. If you could see like my table right now, I'm taking all types of notes, got my laptop out. This is really fascinating stuff. So this idea of taking a chance on yourself it's a really beautiful thing. Can you talk a little bit of, because I don't necessarily want the listeners to just go quit their job tomorrow unless it's on their heart, but can you talk about like how calculated you were, right? So had you already started making profits from your coats, like how, I guess, the calculation behind it, and talk about like what that was like.
Yeah. So even though I woke up that morning and was like, I'm not going back, the business had become a business without it being a business yet, right? So on my lunch break, before work, after work, I was going to the 3rd District, doing stuff for clients. People were introducing me to other people. So it had already started to build before I said, I'm out of here. And also when I said I was out of here, I wasn't in a position of being one paycheck away from broke. I said, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was in a position where I was able to kind of like live as well as invest in what I was doing. So it wasn't just this crazy thing where I just up and quit, because I am a very fiscally conservative person, right? Despite how it might appear. right? Like I'm always thinking about money and utilizing it wisely. So yeah, so I quit, and then it was just like, okay, now what, right? Because when I quit on March 30. My last official day was March 31st, 2017. March is spring, right? Going into summer. Spring and summer, you're not thinking about wearing a coat with fur, right? So it was like, okay, I quit my job at a time where, yeah, during January, February, people were like, it was still winter. People still like buying, what I'm selling. But then spring came. People weren't really thinking about that. And especially thinking about it from somebody they don't know, right? At that point, nobody knew really except my friends, right? Who the Welthe Guy was. So I used that time to start to build the brand and think about what it looked like. And I said, okay, I need to get the brand out there. So I got the opportunity to show my coats in Atlanta through something called Small Boutique Fashion Week. So that was like my first showing of the coats, like on the actual runway. People loved it. And then I got the opportunity to do the same thing. And this is all in my first year during Fashion Week. All right. So showing the coats. And then that led to another opportunity where someone was like, you have to come to Chicago to, show these coats, and we'll pay for you to come, So I was like, okay, we getting somewhere. And then that turned into, this guy that I know, he's a movie director. He's working on this independent film. He's looking for a coat exactly like yours for the film. My friend introduced me to him. The next thing I know, my coat is in a movie that I went to the premiere of, and I see my name on the credits in the theater, AMC, like this, like what? Like, so a lot of big things happened for me, like not by accident, of course, right? Like all by me saying, okay, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. And putting it out there in the air and things coming, right? Like those things, I'm a big believer in telling people what it is that you want. You never know who could help you, right? I'm not one of those people like that keeps the secret until I'm ready to share it. It's like, this is what I'm doing. It's one, to hold me accountable, because I never want to be an I'ma do, right? I'm about to do this, I'm gonna do that. And the next time you see the person, yo, what happened to this? Oh, nah. I'm on to something else. I'm selling do-rags now, so I never want to I never want to be an Amadou. So telling people what it is that I want, one, helps to keep me accountable, and two, puts it out there in the universe for someone to say, actually, I can help you with this. And that's how my life has been, putting stuff out there and people coming to me saying, you know what, like, I like that. I'm going to help you with this. So yeah, so within the first year of the business, I was doing some like big things for somebody who has an unknown brand, but I was trying to, to make it known, and it was still growing, and I was still refining it and all of those things. And then kind of like the next step was like, okay, I'm on social media. There's so many other guys that are putting on their suits, taking a picture in the street like this, right? How am I going to stand out from all of those people that are already in this space that have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 followers, right? And I was like, I gotta stand out from them. And that's where the blonde beard came in. It was like, okay, how am I gonna stand out from them? I was like, okay, I can't do nothing with this, right? I don't mess with the man weave, If you do, that's fine. but it's not something I could see myself doing, especially from a maintenance perspective. So I was like, okay, well, I have this. Let me bleach the beard. And bleaching the beard really changed things for me, because it's like once people saw me, they stopped, right? Like, wait a minute, who is this? He doesn't look like an old person, but then I see like this white looking, blonde looking beard, like, who is this? So it naturally started to pique people's, interest. So even now when people say, yeah, I remember when when you first started, like until now. And at that time I had 3,000 Instagram followers when I came up with my strategy. And I was like, okay, first goal is to get to 10. And it wasn't a vanity thing. It was at 10,000, you unlock these features that can help you with your business, right? Swipe up, things like that. So my sight was set on that 10,000. So I started going hard, doing what I know how to do, which is educate. Right? Like I see a lot of people who influence, right, from a suiting, clothes perspective, but you don't really hear them talking. You just see they nice edited pictures of them, the light hitting them good, all that, but you don't never get to know who they are. All right? So my thing was, okay, I need to build know, like, and trust with people, right? I'm selling products that are at a price point that most people are not going to. You don't go on Instagram thinking you're about to spend $1,000 on a coat or a suit. You know what I'm saying? You go on Instagram to laugh and to look at cute people and look at, look at news and whatever it is. You're not going there thinking you're about to spend $1,000. So my thing was like, okay, I'm going to educate on style. I'm going to educate on grooming. I'm going to educate on why you should wear a heather gray T-shirt under your white dress shirt. I'm gonna become the professor. You know what I'm saying? And the success on social media can be gained in a few ways, right? One, for sure, if you're able to entertain people. Two, if you're able to educate people. Three, if you're able to motivate, inspire. And if you can do all three, you in the building. You're in the building, and that's the, I remember my first going live on Facebook. That's where I started. I look crazy. I looking like deer in headlights, like my words weren't flowing, but it was my first time. But I knew I had to keep going. And the more I did it, the more comfortable I got talking to, the webcam or, talking to my phone and being comfortable in my own skin, right? Because putting yourself out in public, you know how people are, because we do it. We look at you, look crazy. People are just so judgmental and critical of others. So to feel comfortable in your own skin on social media is not an easy thing, but it's the best thing to do because people want authenticity. So what you see is what you get. I actually get hyped about what I'm talking about. Like it's not a show. It's just me being passionate about the things that I love and just talking to you about it, right? I want you to feel like I'm talking directly to you. You and I are having a conversation. So, that was really my path. And then I just saw the opportunities and the followers and the customers all going up. And it wasn't until I started going out in the street, right, to go to the ferry or whatever, getting on a train and people stopping me like, my people, I know you. Like I follow, and asking me to take pictures. I'm like, wait, I didn't expect for that to come along, like with it. And like, wait a minute, nah, I can't even go to the corner store with my Nike slides on because I go, people like, I know you. You the guy that talks about not carrying a wallet or whatever it is. And then I really begin to see the impact of it on young black male, young males, period. And not only young males, older males. People started coming to me, telling me stories, crazy stories about where they are in their life, and watching my videos, how it inspires them and it like gets them hype, and how they've made changes in their life. And I'm like, that is what it's all about, right? Of course, I want to make money. This is a business first and foremost, but you get to the money doing what you love, and doing it in a way where you show that you genuinely care about people. You know, like that is how you get people on your side, when it's like, yes, I'm doing this because I genuinely want to share information that is going to help you in whatever way make a change in your life that helps your life going forward.
Can I jump in really quickly? Again, so many gems, so much knowledge. Love what you're sharing with us. And for folks who are listening or who will be listening to this, right? I hope y'all got a pen and paper and y'all are taking these notes. Look, this brother, when he talks about being the professor of style and educating people, he takes it to another level. I've had the pleasure of hearing him share his knowledge and expertise a few times. And I'm always writing down, like from the last time we had him come speak to the guys, I had a ton of notes from beard care to body shape to just knowing your proper measurements, right? And I even went a book talking about measurements, right? I just got one of these because of you, right? Which is the measurement, right? So now you can kind of measure the exact length and everything. So I just got one to make sure that I know my right, size, perfect fitting.
And Jay, what is that exactly for people listening?
Let me take it. It's just a measurement. What's the proper terminology for this, Robert?
Tape. It's a measuring tape,
right?
Yeah,
it's just a measuring tape. Yep. That you can use to measure the length of your arm, the length of the proper measurements that you need to buy the correct shirt size, correct pant size, etc. But this comes just from listening to Robert, right? And so it is truly a lot of gems. So Robert, you spoke a little bit about impact, and what is the feeling that you get when you see other young men of color in particular who come from the same community that you did, giving you such great feedback? I mean, I've seen it when you're talking to our guys, they don't want you to go.
Right.
Right? Like when we play an hour session, he's there for almost 2 hours.
Right.
So what does that feel like for you?
It feels energizing, and it also validates what I'm doing in all the time, because there's so much work that goes in behind the scenes. I mean, you guys know this, to make stuff happen that you see in front of your face, right? So even though the podcast is only like an hour, you don't spend an hour to get to that hour, right? There's a lot of things that's going on in the background that get you to that episode. So to be able to put in all of that hard work and be up early in the morning and late at night doing different things and thinking about videos and thinking about what the clothes are going to look like and what I'm going to teach and all of that stuff, and creating the content for people to come and say they love it, they appreciate it, or even giving feedback where there's an opportunity to change something, or to do something different. Like what I do realize is I know a lot, right? But I don't know everything, right? We always can like learn from each other. And there's been times where people have come and said, I love that you do this. Could you, share more on this subject or that subject? Or what about if you like did the video in like this way? And just being open to that, right? Instead of shutting them down like, this my show. What you talking about? Like, do you do a show? No, they don't necessarily have to do a show to give you feedback about what might help you. All right. So just being open to that, And just, yeah, like, so men, women. So it's funny because only 15% of my audience is women, right? 85% is men, but the women are the ones that bring the men. Their boyfriends, their husbands, their dads, their brothers. Check this guy out, you know? So I have those 15% of women are loyal fan base, and like they are a pipeline to the customer that I'm, you know, that I'm looking for. So yeah, so it's a blessing to be able to do what I'm doing, and I'm not looking for praise, right? So you a lot of times when someone does come and give me a compliment, I love you, whatever it is, I'm humbled by it. And in some instances, we don't know how to receive it. You know, like we don't know how to receive that type of feedback, because I'm not really doing it for that. You know, so it's like, oh man, thank you, I appreciate it. You know, but now I'm like, okay, it's a fuel to, all right, I'm doing something right. It is actually affecting change, right? Let me keep going.
No doubt, no doubt. So, obviously, New York City is thought of as like the fashion capital of the world. When you think of the Bronx, what do you think of in terms of style?
Oh man, like, so what I love about being a native New Yorker and someone from the Bronx is that when you grow up here, you know where people are from by the way they dress, right? Like Bronx people love coordinating outfits, right? You get a red fitted, red t-shirt, red shorts, red sneakers, right? Like Bronx people love coordinating and they love shopping in the Bronx, right? A Jimmy Jazz, a Dr. J's, you know, that's what I grew. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I grew up on.
Yo, you're describing high school me. You were definitely describing high school
Right.
me.
Like, so I always, you know, Bronx style is very matchy. But you know, for me growing up, I always kind of mixed and matched like colors. It wasn't all just the red and white, you know, like look for me. But even thinking about, yeah, like when I see people from the Bronx, like I'm like, nah, they from the Bronx. Look at how they matching. Like I know that they, you know, bought that outfit in the Bronx. Same thing for people from Brooklyn and in Harlem. Everybody kind of has their own style. So yeah, so growing up in the Bronx, those were the places that I shopped, just like everybody else, going to Southern Boulevard, right?
Can I just say something about this really quickly? It's funny because Kevin and I were, and one of our other friends, we were just talking about fashion like a week ago. And I always say the same thing to people. I'm like, yo, you don't have to match every color on your sneaker with your outfit.
Right.
You know, if I'm wearing all black, my sneakers should stand out. They should be red, right? Or they should be another color. If I'm wearing you know, a different pair of sneakers with different colors, like choose maybe one color, or maybe don't even choose a color on the shoe, right? Like try to figure out how to just coordinate. I always say you can coordinate with the colors, but don't match, right? Like you don't need to match the red hat with the red shirt and the red sneakers. It's terrible. So I just
But that is so classic Bronx. That's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about Bronx fashion. All right, and Tim's and 40 Belows and you know like all of those things that are just synonymous with a Jimmy Jazz or a Dr. J's or some of the other, you know, stores that we, you know, it's just like, oh, I'm going shopping. Where you going? Fordham Road. Oh, you're about to be lit. Like, you know, that was like going, like, it wasn't like, okay, I'm going to 34th Street. It's like, nah, like your trip was to Fordham Road. I'm about to take the bus to Fordham Road and go shopping. Well, actually, they got the same thing that they got at the Jimmy Jazz on Southern Boulevard.
and even, well, but here's the thing. Even when you went to a Macy's or a different type of store, it's a chain. And so everybody in the hood wore the same type of polo, the same color polo.
Right. Exactly. So I have very fond memories of, you know, shopping in the Bronx, being on Southern Boulevard, being on Fordham Road, being like up on Bruckner when they like had different stores up there. It is just, yeah, just so Bronx about it. And that's why, like, even though I live in Harlem, like, I'm from the Bronx. Like, I'm always gonna have love for the Bronx and unique Bronx experiences, right? that we've all experienced being from the Bronx.
No doubt. Well, thank you so much for taking your time with us. We greatly appreciate it. I'm gonna try to sum up some of it, and I'm gonna say some of, because you left us with so many wisdom, so many nuggets of wisdom and all of that. So, where do I start? I took so many notes. One thing that you said keep going regardless. So I know you said in your first live that you did, it didn't go exactly how you would have done it now, of course, right? Because now you're seasoned and you've done it. But if you watch that first one back then and were like, oh, I'm not good at this, and you stopped, you wouldn't have been able to keep going, right? So keep on going regardless. It makes us think about this podcast. Episode 1 sounds very different now than episode 21, and they should, right? But keep going. You also talked about giving to others. And it doesn't always have to be money. Information a lot of times is free, right? Everyone has something that they can give, whether it be money, whether it be time, whether it be information. There's something that you have that you can share with someone else, and that is super valuable. What is your legacy going to be? So Jason and I talk about this all the time. Leaving a legacy is important, right? What is your legacy going to be? And that means different things to different people. Taking a chance on yourself, right? If you know in your soul and in your heart you are not in the space that you need to be in, figure out where you do need to be and go there. Even when others are telling you this is not the thing for you, or that doesn't make sense, or that's silly. Why are you going to Asia? That doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
But if you know that this is the thing that is going to make sense for where you need to get to, push through and do it. Another thing that you said that Jason is actually really good about it, he's always pushing me to be better at, is telling people the thing that you are doing, right? Let people know, right? It's not about being braggadocious, but it's letting people know these are the things that I'm doing, because you never know who's going to be able to help you and support you and push you through and all of those different things. So Jason, thank you for reminding me. Welthe Guy, thank you for telling it to the audience. But yes, be better about that, right? Letting people know what it is that you're doing. Being open to feedback, right? So if someone is listening to the show and they're like, hey, I like your show, but what if you tried it this way? And I'm like, nah, this is our show. We're not doing that, right? But listening, because that feedback might actually make sense. And a lot of listeners' feedback has been super helpful to us in terms of growing the show and growing the brand. That is a lot of what I have. Jay, anything you want to add? And there was way more. I'm not trying to insult you. That was just some of the things I was able to kind of get.
To your point, there's so much, and I will take up even more time going through all of this. But the biggest thing I think that kind of encompasses all of this is thinking about like your brand. So we didn't even have a chance to dive deep into everything that the Welthe Guy does. I mean, this dude is a walking business. And I think that it's important for all of us to think about like, what is our brand? Because we all have one, despite not having a business, or like you may not even want to go in that direction, but you have a reputation. And when people hear your name, what do they associate with that? So I think the biggest piece out of all of this is that brand building.
Shout out to the brand, right? You are a walking brand. What do you want your brand to tell others about you, and getting that vision to go with it? So thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. So we're not going to let you go yet without having a little bit of fun. The convo has been fun, but the next section is going to be additional fun. It's something that we like to do called rapid fire. Yep. And Jay is about to take it away, but he's going to ask you 5 questions. And what we want from that is the first word or words that come to your head. Don't take too much time thinking about it. Really just kind of let us know what you're thinking based on that first word that he says.
All right.
So Jay, take it away.
Let's get it. First question. One word to describe the Welthe Guy.
Fresh.
Who or what is your fashion inspiration?
Ooh, Trading Places.
What is your favorite store to shop at?
Marshalls.
What is your favorite hobby?
Ooh, I don't know if this is a hobby, but this is what comes to my head first. Taking a cat nap.
Awesome. What is your favorite country to visit?
Oh, that's a good one. Morocco.
Awesome. So that is rapid fire. 5 questions. You knocked it out the park.
You killed it. And I'm going to actually break a rule because we're not actually supposed to talk about rapid fire. It's just supposed to be one word, but I'm going to ask anyway. When you said Trading Places, were you talking about the movie, Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy? Yes. So if you have not seen Trading Places, that is one of my favorite movies. Eddie Murphy is a genius.
Right.
And you're thinking about the coats and stuff like that they wore, right?
I'm thinking about I always loved seeing people dressed up and like rich people and like just the way that I always would say that's gonna be me. That's gonna be me.
That's a dope story as to how you, no doubt. Shout out to Trading Places, phenomenal movie. All right, so one more thing before we let you go, we got some Bronx questions we're gonna transition to really quickly. We are a Bronx podcast, and we are very proud of that. So, first and foremost, if you had a friend who has hanging out with you and you wanted to let them know, hey, I'm from the Bronx, I'm going to take you around, right? Where is one place in the Bronx you're taking them out to eat?
Oh, man. Definitely, I'm going to take them to City Island. Yeah, for sure, because it gives you like a little bit of an experience, make you feel, like it's outside of, the Bronx. You feel like you're going somewhere. Right, so right on the water, got that seafood. Yeah, I'm taking them to City Island.
No doubt. Shout out to City Island. That's always a win.
Right.
All right. So now the same friend, right? Y'all are still hanging out, and now you're fed. So you are full. You feel good, energized, and now this friend wants to hang out in the Bronx. Where's one spot you're gonna take them to visit?
Oh man, that's a that question is actually a pretty tough one because I haven't spent time, other than actually, where I would take them? I would take them to my mom's house. Like my mom still lives in the Bronx. I have an aunt that still lives in the Bronx. Like, I feel like when you go someplace, like a local place, you gotta go to somebody's family house, right?
That's a great answer. Shout out to community, right? Bring them to the communities that you actually grew up in. That's what's up. That's a really rich and valuable experience, and I'm sure they would appreciate it. Last but not least, so there are a lot of negative stereotypes about the Bronx. There are a lot of misconceptions about the Bronx. What is one stereotype about the Bronx that you've heard that you want to shut down today?
Oh, a stereotype. A stereotype of the Bronx is that all of the Bronx in general is a bad place, right? Like, oh, you're gonna get robbed, or something's going to happen to you in the Bronx, and that is not always the case. With any place, there is pockets of violence and where you should be like scared to go. But like I said, I grew up through bad times in the Bronx. But from the perspective of really being scared to go different places and all of that, I don't think it's as bad as people think that it is.
Most def. Well, yo, thank you so much for doing the show. This was an amazing interview. Like I said before, this is my first time getting to sit down and kind of rap with you. This has been really dope. I took a ton of notes and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I know the listeners will enjoy it too. We had such rich conversation. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, for people who aren't following you on social media, can you throw out your social medias for everybody?
Yes, so it's the Welthe Guy, and it's TheWeltheGuy. So it's the phonetic of wealthy. So that's on Facebook, that's on Instagram, that's on Twitter, that's on Pinterest, that's on YouTube, that's on the website is Welthe Lifestyle. So I'm all over the place. If you Google the Welthe Guy, you're gonna see the Welthe Guy.
No doubt. Once again, thank you. We thoroughly appreciated this.
Yeah, man. Thank y'all for inviting me. When Jason told me about it, I'm like, of course, all day, every day. Like, it's just like when you hear that someone is, from your borough or even from the area that you grew up in, instantly when I told you I grew up in Soundview, you like, me too. There's that automatic love and that automatic connection. So thank you guys for this podcast and for shedding a light on people from the Bronx, impacting change right within their community and without outside of the community. I think this is a great platform to share it, and this is you guys' legacy. You go down in history. These episodes will be here forever for people to listen to know and hear voices from the Bronx. So thank you guys.
No doubt. Shout out to Legacy, and thank you for that. That's powerful. Jay, before we get out, if you could throw out our social medias for me real quick, please, bro.
Yes. So you can follow us on Instagram at Live from the Bronx. That's BRONX. You can follow us on Twitter at Live from the BX. We are not like the Welthe Guy yet, but we do need to get on all platforms. And you can shoot us an email. Let us know what you think. Let us know who you would like to be on the show. Send us a review. Email us at info@livefromthebronx.com.
Episode 21. You get it, y'all.